Welcome to another edition of Mark's Inspiration. Glad you could join me here today. As always, like and subscribe. Thanks for joining. And it's a beautiful, somewhat sunny, partly cloudy day in St. Louis, Missouri today, and it's going to be warm, 61 degrees Fahrenheit. Hope it's wonderful wherever you are in the world today. Today's topic is going to be escaping reality. I have a listener named Sparty, and he wanted me to touch on escaping reality, fantasy. And he wrote to me and said, I just wanted to know about escaping reality, which means a defensive reaction involving the use of fantasy as of avoiding conflicts and problems of daily living. Now, this is a challenge for me because I believe in denying the evidence of the senses and assuming the wish fulfilled. So there's a fine line between denying the evidence of the senses and seeing only what you want to see and escaping into fantasy and avoiding reality. Here's the reality. If I step out on a road of moving traffic, there's a real good chance I'm going to get hit by a car. Now that's a fact of reality. But how do I ignore the evidence of the senses? Now my senses tell me not to step out into traffic, which is good. Our senses keep us alive. But too many times we look at something, we look at the facts. Facts were created by vision, by imagination, by thinking. It used to be a fact that man could never fly. That was a privilege reserved for the birds. So said the greatest scientific minds of the time. And I'm also sure that the greatest scientific minds of the time could also say, or did say, that man would never go to the moon, but yet we did. Although maybe some of you believe we didn't get there, and I'm not sure if we did or not, but I do believe we're going into outer space. I think that's a fact, but who knows? Maybe that's not true either. But I believe it is. Okay? The greatest scientific minds of the time, the doctors said man could never run faster than a 4-minute mile. If he did, his heart would explode. When Roger Bannister broke that 4-minute mile, he said he was waiting for his heart to quit beating or to die or to have a heart attack because everybody said that was what was going to happen. But it didn't. And in the same year, a couple of other guys broke the 4-minute mile. And today, high school kids break the 4-minute mile, which was once thought and proved by the greatest doctors and scientists to be impossible. But yet, here we do it. And those were all facts, right? Supposed facts. So how do you distinguish between fantasy and reality? Actually, today's fantasy will become tomorrow's reality. I mean, there is a certain line you have to draw. If I sit here in the house and I don't make my house payment, okay, if I have one, and just sit and fantasize that I'll have my house the rest of my life, somebody's probably going to come knocking on my door with an eviction order, probably a sheriff, and they're going to kick me out of here. So that's denying reality. I think Corey Wayne says you can deny reality, but you can't deny the consequences of reality. So yes, there are people who become delusional and escape into fantasy of non-reality to escape the pressures and the how do I say, the dislikes of the day, or the I can't think of the word, what they don't like in the day. They don't want to accept it, so they want to escape. So they fantasize and even get delusional, or some people are schizophrenic. I had a friend once and he was schizophrenic, and I was helping him. And the only difference between him and I was the voices that he heard were audible, but the voices I hear are inaudible. He would hear things like, you're stupid, you could never do that. I used to think things like that. If he made a mistake, he would think, I'm stupid, except he heard someone saying that to him. But we all say that to ourselves sometimes. But as I teach here, or I share here, you don't want to do that. You want to stop that, because it's very important what you say to yourself. I'm having a difficult time here because I know when people escape into fantasy, they live in a world of delusion, but yet there's that fine line where you actually need to deny the evidence of the senses. Not to the point where you're putting yourself in danger, or where you're not paying your bills, or you're not taking care of your responsibilities, but to the point where you're not moved by the evidence of your senses, where the facts of reality do not change the vision within your mind. You don't deny it on the physical plane. You don't deny the evidence of your senses on the physical plane, but in the mental, metaphysical, spiritual plane, you deny it. Let's say you want to own a private jet. Of course, you don't own a private jet in the world of physical reality. But in your mind, in the idea in your mind, you own a private jet. So you start talking as if you have a private jet. Maybe you tell your friends, hey, I'm flying to Hawaii on my jet this weekend. And they're going to laugh at you. They're going to think you're delusional. But are you? Now, you don't go to the airport and try to get on someone else's jet. That would be delusional. That would be fantasy. That would be fantasy. I want to say fantasical, but I don't think that's a word. But if you continue to see that in your mind, you will be led over bridges of incidences. It may take a year, it may take 2 years, it may take 10 years, to where you will eventually get to that. Because when you can see it in your mind, eventually it will become a reality. If you hold it with the intention of it becoming a reality, and when intuitive nudges come, you take action on those nudges. And that will move you to whatever you desire in your life. So I suppose what the summary of this is, people live in a fantasy world to deny reality, but they deny it to the point where it causes them problems. I'm not talking about living in a fantasy world in the physical world. We have to deal with physicality. But in your mind, see, believe, and think only of what you want. Envision exactly what you want. Because you are the king of that kingdom within you. And whatever you envision within your mind, consistently, dominantly think about, will eventually come to pass in your outer world. Whether that be something you fear, or whether it be something you desire. Something that you have faith or belief will come to pass. So differentiate between the fantasy and the reality. Live in the world of reality, in the physical world. You have to get up, you have to go to work, if you have a job, to supply your food, to eat, etc., etc. But in your mind, you can live however you want to. And eventually, if you live that way in your mind long enough, that will come to pass as a physical reality, and you will find yourself living that very vision you had in your mind in the physical reality. It will become a fact, as people call it in the world today. I hope that has been helped you. It was difficult for me to explain. Did the best I could. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow.